ALC, the Abundant Life Center. Go to myalc.org for more information.
I'm Ed Montgomery. Looking for more?
Join us at the location and connect with Ed Montgomery at edmontgomery.net. ALC Global.
Ladies and gentlemen, the founder and director of Abundant Life Center for Dynamic Living, Abundant Life Cathedral, Ed Montgomery.
Okay. Thank you so much. Welcome to ALC. Welcome to the Abundant Life Center. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being our special guest today. Even though you're here on Sundays, many of you are, but you're always our special guest. I don't push people to push church, but I encourage you because this is what sharpens your stone. So let's move into it. And if I were to give this a title, which I usually give the titles later, online but in here, I think I would talk about don't let them steal Christmas. Don't let them steal Christmas. Now that's a nice, safe title. That's something that might say, okay, I kind of get you. But I began. I look back years ago, and we were driving down the highway, and all of a sudden a news thing came on, and not one of those breaking news things that they always talked about, but they were talking about the 14th Amendment, the 13th and the 14th Amendment, 15th Amendment. They were talking about immigration and immigrants. And what they were saying was they want to change the law so that people who immigrate to America will not have children who are born in America immediately and by law become citizens of the United States of America. Have anybody heard anything like that? Okay. Well, that's what it is. In other words, if a woman is pregnant and she comes across the border, if she comes from Mexico or if she comes from Africa, wherever she comes from, Haiti, wherever she comes from, if she comes across the border, she is not a citizen of the United States. She would have to be naturalized. But the child, if born on the soil of the United States, becomes automatically a citizen of the United States of America. And they called it, I don't like the term, but they called it anchor babies, and I don't like the term of it. But this is what they use. And if a couple come across the border and there is no conception of a child, but they conceive the child in America, and the child born in America becomes an American citizen. Well, what they want to do, and I mean, you voted for these people, but what they want to do, and people don't have a problem with it. They want to change the law, and to change the law, they have to go into what is considered or called the 14th Amendment. And what you must understand about the 14th Amendment is the 14th Amendment was what was placed in the Constitution that had to do with something called Dred Scott. Dred Scott was a law back in the 1800s that the Supreme Court stripped all people of color, Africans, people who were black, people who were dark and were enslaved. They stripped their citizenship. They were no longer citizens. The reason they stripped the citizenship is so that they could not go to court and they could not use the courts or the court system or any rights of the United States of America as citizens, even though they had been born there. Their mom and them had been born, their grandparents were born, they were born in the United States, so they created Dred Scott. And this was a major problem. They were taking people from the north who were free, taking them back to the south and enslaving them. You've probably seen the movie 12 Years a Slave, things of that sort. That's how bad it was. They had to change that thing. Plessy versus Ferguson, all of these things had to be changed. Brown versus Board of Education, all of these, integration, segregation, all of these words, all the way from the Civil War, all the way to 1968, when you finally got inside of that the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act. You say, why are you talking about that on Christmas? Just flow with me. Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act. I know some of y'all glaze over. I can't hear about the ornaments on the tree. Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, and the Fair Housing Act, because this gave rights to people who were here, and they put it on paper. And how many of you know that even though they put it on paper, don't mean necessarily they can't change it? Here's what you've been seeing, and what people don't realize is they're beginning to change these things. So that was where people of color began to, that freedom aspect, to be able to walk in a store, a convenience store, a hotel, and nobody can throw you out of there. Well, they also passed another law that has been recent, within the last 3-4 years, maybe. I think the Supreme Court did, where a couple walked in, two people walked in, they wanted a cake. But on the cake, they wanted two men on the cake instead of a woman and a man. And so the bakery, which was not a real company, they just used that. And they wanted this, they said, well, we don't want to have to bake that cake for that couple. Because it was a false, anyway. So this was the couple. I go somewhere else and get my cake, because I don't want your cake anyway, because you might spit in the cake. So I don't want your food. I'm walking out the door. But anyway, they fought the case, and they basically won and said they do not have to bake the cake for the couple because they are a gay couple. You must understand that all of this has nothing to do with. None of this has, don't worry, I'm coming back. That's the gremlins and the little demons in there. I'm coming back. And it has nothing to do with that. What it has to do with is now we're looking at the whole abortion thing. And abortion, oh my God. And they even got black people fighting concerning the thing about abortion. We don't like abortion. Nobody likes abortion. But when you say, well, you know, they're killing babies. But once the baby is born, you will not provide legislation to feed the baby. You will not provide anything to help the baby or to help the parents of the baby. And then you put the babies in jail, and then you leave the babies in. You never care for the babies. You say, so what you're doing is saying we're protecting something that delivers out of the womb. And that's what we're protecting, is the womb. All of this is called under the they're protecting the womb. It is not the protection of the womb. Now, you're going to have to trust me on something, because I don't have time to take you to the scripture and say, now look at this, little children, and let's see the scripture. You go to it yourself. Okay? I will do other stuff later on where I have to take you to them because they're really kind of heavy. But you can do this one. This is real simple. All you got to do is look up in Luke chapter 1, and you'll find it yourself. Around Matthew 1 and 2, you'll find it yourself. But Luke chapter 1, it says that an angel came. Now here we into Christmas now. An angel came to Mary and said unto her, you are favored among the Most High, because a child, you're going to have a child, His name shall be called Jesus. His name shall be called Emmanuel, which means God with you. His name, Wonderful Counselor, Prince of Peace, Mighty God. If you were in the Christmas place, some of y'all had that speech. And he says, and then she says to the angel, well, I don't understand this because I have not known a man. I don't know anything about this. And it says, and the Holy Spirit overshadowed her. And then she says, okay, be it unto me according to your word. Repeat this after me. Be it unto me, according to your word. Jesus would say it many times to other people. He says, according to your faith, be it unto you. It has to be unto you according to your faith. To Mary, she says, well, what you said about Jesus and Emmanuel and Wonderful Counselor, she says, then be that, and I shall conceive, be it unto me according to your word. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Who was in control of the womb? It was not God. Because he says to her, this is what happens. But nothing happened until she said, be it unto me according to your word. Your word will have no effect on me until I let it be. Which is why you never let senators and presidents and government control the womb. The womb is in the control of the woman. Listen to me. It is there in your scriptures. But you see, if you read it, if you've been taught to read it differently, that all it was an old man up in the sky who got a 14 to 16-year-old girl pregnant and made you believe that was okay. When you fight concerning your own daughters. But the old man in the sky can get your little girl pregnant and you all right with it? And the husband's all right with it? And Joseph's all right with it? And he has a dream and he said God told him that's why she's pregnant? Oh, if you want to go deeper, I can take you to the second chapter when Mary goes to see Elizabeth. And Elizabeth begins what is called the Annunciation. And she says, and the word you said, God began to perform it based on your saying it. It's in there. It's in there. But you don't read it. This is why we now must become kingdom people. We must become people that understand Scripture. You see, the Bible is a book or a tool of wisdom. We use it as a hammer, a screwdriver, as a drill for our drill bits when we're building something. It is not the rule book for human beings. It is about wisdom. How do you know it's about wisdom? Because that's what we have to begin to teach to our people is understanding wisdom. We're trying to teach folk rules because when you teach them rules, you can keep them under your thumb. What they're after is the power of the womb. When they put their women, when I say there, I'm talking about the powers that be. When they put their women, you need to go back into the kitchen. You need to go back and live like that. You know, the goal is, your job is to be for the man. You are to submit your powers and your dreams and goals and things of that sort in order to help your man fulfill his dreams. What if he don't have no dreams? Who controls the power of the womb? And then when the man says, well, you're having a baby, you cannot do anything. Here comes, and see, I'm walking on thin ice here now. But I'm not asking you to believe what I'm saying today. I'm not trying to be Dr. Ed Montgomery. Today I'm asking you to walk with me as I think, as I muddle through some things. I'm muddling through some things that have been going through my head while I've been on the road. I may be wrong. Pulpit does not always mean I'm right. I may be wrong. I'm just asking you to hold my hand, and we hold hands as we walking down this trail and everything. And I'm asking you, what do you think about that? Let me throw this out to you. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? I don't know. But here's the thing. If the man is saying to the woman, well, the baby is just this much, man. You can't. Okay, so you squirted, and well, I can't say it like that. Like a squirt gun. Okay, stay out of this because it's getting worse. She doesn't. So, in other words, so if things happen in intimacy and the baby comes about, then when is the baby? And all of this is the baby when the baby comes out, or while the baby is still in the womb. When is the baby? Because if that's the case, then if they can create and say the moment of conception is when the baby is really a human being, then that means if that mother and father is over there in Mexico and they conceive in Mexico, come to the United States, or they're in Africa and they conceive in Africa, but then come over to the United States and 9 months later they had a baby, then they have law precedents to say that the baby is not really an American because it was conceived in Africa or Mexico. Oh, you might as well turn that music off. Today, Dr. Ed Montgomery ain't quite done yet. Today, this is Christmas. And I got a present up under the tree. When I was 8 years old, I was in an elementary school, and Mr. Long was my science teacher, and Mr. Long had gave me a chart, and the chart was about stars, and he had taught on stars, and I just went ballistic because I fell in love with the stars. I fell in love with the stars. And so I had this thing, and they said, go home and talk to your parents so they can show you where the stars are. Read the directions and everything, and it will help you to turn the paper and it'll show your parents. Your parents will help you to find the stars. And so I went home to talk to my granddad and told my granddaddy, and I said, we're supposed to find the stars. And my granddaddy said, well, you're in Cleveland, Ohio. He says, right now the lights are too light and everything. He says, because we're not going to be able to see these stars unless, And I said, well, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. You got to read the directions, what Mr. Long says. Now, I'm talking to my granddad, a black man out of Alabama. And my grandmother taught me Christianity Incorporated in church. My grandfather taught me God. And so he tells me, he says, well, no, son, I don't need to read that. I'm going to show you. But, Dad, you don't understand. See, you got to do what Mr. Long said, because Mr. Long, he says, get in the car. So I got in the car, and so he took me out into Chagrin, Ohio. Chagrin, Ohio is out there where these cow pastures are, way out there in the country, where all the lights are not there. So I get out there. We get out of the car. He says, now look up. And I look up, and all of these stars are in the sky. He says, I want you to look toward that area of the sky. He says, and I want you to notice there are 7 stars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I see that picture with my granddaddy standing right here with me. I'm already there now. He says, now, look up. I said, yeah. He says, you got to create an imaginary line between the stars. He says, do you see what your paper says? It's called the Big Dipper. I said, yes. He says, and on the other, there's the Little Dipper. I say, yeah. He says, if you go over there, you will see. And he began to call them out. Cassiopeia, the rocking woman in the rocking chair. He began to call out Zeus. He began to call. And I hate when I hear people on the internet talking about the stars and God and the stars, and they can't even pronounce it right, saying Orion. I say Orion. Pleiades. I said the Pleiades. And so anyway, and so what happened is he showed me the Pleiades, the three of those in Orion's belt, and I began to see these things. And you have to understand, that was me. I wanted to be an astronomer. I didn't want to do any of it. I wanted to be an astronomer. I loved the sky from that moment on. When I was 14 years old, I went to the Boy Scouts, and I became something that was called the Order of the Arrow. And in order to get into the Order of the Arrow, they got to put you out in a yard somewhere out in the woods, and you got to stay overnight. They give you a boiled egg, get your sleeping bag. You got to get in there, and you are told that you're by yourself. You're not by. They're watching you, of course, but you're about 50 yards from each other candidates. And so I'm in this thing, and I'm shivering in here. Finally, I warm up a little bit. Kept my boots inside of my sleeping bag. And I'm in there, but I got to go to the bathroom. I said, I ain't going out there. 14 years old, I hear woo, 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 and everything is amplifying. I said, but I ain't gonna lay in this sleeping bag wet. I'm gonna go. So I get up, I get enough courage, and I put my shoes on, I get out. And so I get out real quick, and I'm getting anxious. I'm beginning to panic. And I'm getting ready to call out. And I said, no, you're in the Order Arrow. You ain't going to make it if you do. And all of a sudden, I heard a voice says, look up. And I looked up, and there was all of these stars. And I said, there's the Big Dipper. There's the Little Dipper. There's Orion. There's the Pleiades. But he also had showed me that one star I am to never forget. He said, it's the North Star. He said, if you ever feel like you are lost, he said, look to that North Star, and you can gauge ways, and it will take you home. See? How many of you have learned that in panic and anxiety to look up, to look higher? How many of you have learned that when those times in your life seem the darkest of any moment, you have learned how to look? And looking up does not mean lifting your head up. It means to be able to look to higher principles, higher thoughts, higher consciousness, higher understanding, and realize that my God has not left me because my God is within me. And I looked up, and then I finally remembered all my Boy Scout training, dug my little hole, all that kind of stuff, got back in the sleeping bag, got up the next morning, and guess where I was? Just like the stars, my granddad, I was in a pasture with the rest of the boys. We was in a corralled cow pasture. Wasn't nothing there but a couple cows. That's what we heard. I thought it was an owl, it was a cow. Moo. Finally, after that, I'll never forget. And that's why I said, halt the music, so let me tell this. I remember when my daughter Angela passed away at 14 years old. And her job, all the time I remember as a child, was to put the star on top of the Christmas tree. Well, she passed away on the 22nd of December. And we could not bury her because Christmas was there. And the funeral home would not allow us to do, or the gravesite would not allow. So we had to wait until the 26th of December. So the body was out. And so what I realized From that point on, I never wanted to see another star. And I only tell this to you now is because Sandra's not here. If Sandra was here, I would never tell this story because it was something that was about her and I. And she didn't have a problem with it because she said, you got other children. I said, I said, you put the star up there. I never want to see another star. And I never did. I never did. I never looked up at the stars after that again. And now I cannot see them. Do what you can while you can. That's number 2. Repeat after me. Do what you can while you can. Don't wait. If you love somebody, tell them that you love them. If you care for somebody, tell them that you care about them. Whatever God begins to speak to you, begin to get on it now. Don't just keep waiting and waiting and waiting. That doesn't mean to be foolish. Get counsel first, but get counsel. And so I never looked at the stars again. Don't feel sad because they got telescopes out there now. I can put them on an iPad and blow it up. But I can't see that far anyway. So I never was able, I don't go to planetariums. I love the planetariums, but I can't see the stars. Here is my Christmas message. There were wise men. And we have been taught to forget about, in Christianity, magic and mysticism and things of that sort. But we forget that the wise men were called the Magi. Say Magi. Do you know what Magi is short for? Magic. Magicians. They were magicians. They were astrologers. But more than that, they understood the pasture. Now, watch this. They understood when you're laying in a pasture and you're a shepherd, there's no TV, there's no internet, there's no flipping and scooping and swiping. The only entertainment you will have is either if those sheep are getting out of what they're supposed to do, but if they're quiet and laying down, the only entertainment you would have is to look up and see the what? The stars. You're looking at the stars laying in a pasture. The word pasture is elongated for pastor. Pastors are not folk that marry you and bury you. They are seers. They stargaze. And they read the stars, and they read the signs, and they read the planets, and they read the numbers. They read the lives of people. They read the understanding of people's mentalities. They read the words and testimonies of people. They read the hurts and the scars and the needs within other people. Pastors or pastors have the ability to see the stars. And if you can see them, they will lead you. And one star, which is believed to be the North Star, led these wise men to a place where a child was born. And this child, I thought about, what am I thankful for? I'm thankful for, of course, the obvious, the food, clothing, shelter. But I'm also thankful for the ability
to be able to take a breath. I'm thankful for being able to put one foot in front of the other. Thankful for the ability to laugh, to have people around me that I love and people around that love me. Actually, I'm thankful for some very simple things, but these are things that mean a lot to me. Tell me, during this holiday season, what are you thankful for? What has made an impact in your life? What has caused you to think? What has caused you moments to where you say, you know what? I feel so blessed by God. And whether we know it or not, we are blessed by God. However you sense God to be, God is much bigger than everything. God is greater than everything. But more than anything, God is within you. So every breath you take, remember how thankful you are to God during this holiday season. Regardless of what you have in your pocket, it's what you're blessed with. And that blessing is what we feel. Take a moment and show that gratitude. Help us to be able to remind people of this same gratitude all over the country, all over the world. Yes, we reach England. We reach South America. We reach all of the nation, all the states of the nation. Please make sure you do it. Take a moment. Look at your text to give. 713-742-2035. Look at the numbers on your screen. Or go right now to myalc.org. That's myalc.org. And make your holiday gift. Make your Thanksgiving gift. Make your Christmas gift. Make your holiday gift. Do it right now. Because while this season is available, let the warmth of your heart come through and let it fill not only your life, but the lives around you. God bless you, and we love you. You know, I think we don't see things that are happening with us in our lives. And I was talking to a few people and I said, you know, what are those things? What bothers you? And what are some of the things that we are afraid of? And sometimes what we're angry about, we're afraid of. What are we angry about? What are we afraid of? We're afraid of becoming unhealthy. We're afraid of getting something that we can't get out of. We're afraid of money situations that we can't solve. We're afraid of getting older and not having security. We're afraid of how we're going to take care of parents if something goes wrong. We're afraid of death. We're afraid of losing people that we love. We're afraid of losing that job at the wrong place and at the wrong time. What do we do? Everything that you deal with in life is not just practice, but it is preparation for the next step. I think we have taught people for so long that real faith is about avoiding storms, about being able to speak wonderful words and make storms disappear. But Jesus, who is one of the greatest teachers ever, didn't always speak to storms to make them go away. Sometimes Jesus walked through them and ignored them. Sometimes you don't just try to make them leave. You learn to ignore them and walk through them. Either way, the storm is of no consequence. What can I say about life today? Everywhere we look, pick up the newspaper. Now it's not just the newspaper, but we turn on our cell phones, our iPads. CNN pops up, Washington Post pops up. Something is always going on. And we feel challenged everywhere. Sometimes the opportunity to go higher is in what we've been doing all along. Just preparation. Don't get discouraged. Don't get bent out of shape. Because a lot of what you deal with is preparation. The road signs. Your life, your best life, is up ahead of you. Don't give up now. I believe that thing that you really desire is right around the corner. And I think you're ready for it. Yeah. Make the shift.